Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. If you take Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas's receiving yards this year, you get 3,746 yards. 2,746 yards. And that's 62% of LSU's receiving. And only Kyron Lacy, Chris Hilton, and Aaron Anderson, as far as wide receivers, had catches. The rest of the catches went to tight ends and running backs. You did not see any catches for Shelton Sampson, who had a couple of drops against Grambling. No catches for Kyle Parker. No catches for Landon Ibieta, or no catches for Jalen Brown, who we just mentioned. And so you've got a very unproven wide receiver room to this point. Kyron Lacy was a really good 3, and I think will be a productive player for LSU next year. We've seen flashes from Chris Hilton, the biggest being the deep shot Garrett Nussmeier hit him on for the chunk play on the last drive against Wisconsin. Hilton has shown his home run speed and has just got to work on catching the football and holding on to it. But when he does, he's a handful. Aaron Anderson, coming back off the injury, never quite found a rhythm or a flow, muffed that kick early against Florida State, and then was really a non-factor for much of the time. And then, as I mentioned, those freshmen were non-factors. So LSU's got some work to do in developing wide receivers. Now, you trust Cortez Hankton to do that, and you think that you've got a quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier who's very capable of getting guys involved because he played so well in the bowl game. I'm curious what comes of these freshmen. I should have gone and pulled the tape, but I didn't think to do it. I went to one bowl practice, and I was there for about 45 minutes. And so trying to boil down a young player's entire first season by 45 minutes of an indoor practice is not necessarily a representative sample size. In fact, it is not. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I will tell you, because I said this when I got back from that practice on the air, Jalen Brown ran a couple routes that day. One, he ran a go route and used that unbelievable speed and just cold dropped one. And the second time, he tried to get into a break and tried to break down, and he just kind of tripped over his feet. And to me, when you're that talented and that fast, which Jalen Brown is a track star, you're on the field unless there are some things you've really got to work on from a wide receiver perspective. And I think that's the case. I think Jalen Brown is far from a finished product, and he's going to try to develop elsewhere. That leaves from that really, really talented freshman wide receiver class Shelton Sampson, Kyle Parker, and Kai Priam. Sampson had 2 cold drops that would have both been touchdowns in the Grambling game. And we haven't seen a lot of Kyle Parker, although in the 45 minutes I was at that practice, he did make a couple really nice plays. He's a Texas native who really is a technician in running his routes. He's not necessarily the biggest. He's not the fastest, but he's a good route runner and a guy that I think can create a lot of separation. And he's a pretty good athlete, just not going to run like Jalen Brown. He's not built like Shelton Sampson. You get the picture there. So you bring in your transfer from Mississippi State, and you think that you've got a really good option there, certainly in the return game, and a guy who caught 500 yards worth of balls in a bad offense last year. And you lean on Lacy and Hilton and Anderson and hope those freshmen kind of blossom. That's the hope here. But I'm not going to sit here in January and say, well, you got Nussmeier, he's playing great. All these guys were 4 stars. Wide receiver's going to be awesome. Like, you don't just immediately lose the leading receiver in the history of the program and another 1,000-yard guy who's probably going to go in the top, I'll be conservative and say 40 picks of the draft. Maybe it's 15. But in the top 40 picks in the draft, those 2 guys who both went over 1,000 yards, one led the country, one led the country in touchdowns, and you just, next guy. Lacy was a great 3. Put him at 1. Chris Hilton, he's really fast. He's awesome. Put him right in there. He'll be great. Shelton Sampson, 5-star. He's a sophomore. He'll be awesome. Maybe. I'm hoping. I'm hoping for all of that. And I'm not, like, massively concerned about the offense. About the wide receiver group. You heard me 30 minutes ago tell you how good a spot I think this offense is in terms of the program. I love the offensive line, even with the departure of Lance Hurd. I think what you've got going at quarterback is very good. Garrett Nussmeier's got 2 years of eligibility left. You've got a couple of guys behind him. You've brought in a veteran backup in A.J. Swan. And then you hope Bryce Underwood is the next piece here coming on Saturday. Tight end room is in phenomenal shape. Love Mason Taylor, Mac Markway, Kamorian Pimpton. You continue to add to that tight end group. Running back, we went through that with the Harlan Berry announcement. I love potential of keeping Diggs, Caleb Jackson, Trey Holly, Caden Durham, Harlan Berry. Like, that looks really, really good. And the talent at wide receiver looks really, really good as well. But the production you just got from those two guys is daunting when you look at it. And there weren't enough footballs to go around for Chris Hilton to have a monster year. There weren't enough footballs to go around, playing time, for Shelton Sampson to break out as a freshman. But, Jarvis Landry didn't break out as a freshman. He got hurt in camp, and it was basically Ruben Randall and Odell, and they ran the ball a ton, and all of a sudden Jarvis came out as a sophomore and ripped it up. And maybe that's the case for Shelton Sampson. I sure hope so. But they've got a spring and a summer and then a fall camp to get ready to go. My gut tells me if I'm trying to map out how I think this works, and I am just cold blanking on the Mississippi State transfer's name. I cannot come up with it. I didn't write it down. Somebody put it in the Bayou 4 chat as I go through it because I'm just blanking on it hard. I know he's a kick returner. I know he's from New Orleans. I know he caught 538 yards worth of balls in Mississippi State, and I can't come up with the name. But if I had to bet on it, I would guess that you're looking at Kyron Lacey kind of being the lead dog. I think Chris Hilton develops a little bit more than just the straight line speed that we've seen. I think those two guys, Xavier Thomas, thank you for everybody in there. That's and then Xavier Thomas, I think, is your third guy. I don't know what to think about Aaron Anderson yet. The high school film is incredible. I thought he looked good in camp. And then he caught a couple of kickoffs, and I was like, where's the burst? And I'm hoping he kind of recovers from that. And that would be a good hit. And then I just think one of these two, between Sampson and Parker, needs to develop into what Kyron Lacey was this year. If they can be, what were Kyron Lacey's final stats here? 30 catches, 558 yards, 7 touchdowns. And I don't even need the 7 touchdowns. You had the Heisman Trophy winner throwing the ball. So that's a lot. But that, I think, is not as good as what you just had, but good enough with a quality quarterback, which I think you've got. I think it goes Lacey, Hilton, Thomas. I'll lean Sampson, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Parker was the next guy. And Cortez Hankton, we'll see what kind of a wide receiver developer that he is. I think that he did great work, obviously, with Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas. But if you can replicate that production with these guys, then all of a sudden, you've really got something. Now that machine's rolling. Because that's always the thing. Like, is it the program or is it that one dude? You found out pretty quick with, like, Kevin Sumlin and A&M. Like, it was the one dude. Hopefully this is not just a Jaden Daniels, Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas product. It's LSU's offense, and it's just it's a part of the program. You just wheel them in and out. It's like Saban's defense. Always good. Just get the next guy. Next guy. Next guy. Will Anderson's gone. There's Dallas Turner. Like, that's what you're hoping for at wide receiver. I still have that hope. I feel like there may be some of you that would listen to this segment and say, he's being negative about. I don't think I'm being overly negative. I'm just trying to be realistic in that I think oftentimes a dominant player moves on and we think the next guy, just because he was a 4 or 5 star, like, they'll be fine. I'll just plug him in there. I'm not going to do that with Friday night guy for LSU coming up in 6 weeks either. I think it'll be Thatcher Hurd. I think it'll be great. I think it'll be Paul Skeens. Not quite. You don't have to be Paul Skeens. Just be the great Thatcher Hurd. Be the Thatcher Hurd we saw in Game 3 of the championship series. Kyron Lacey, you don't have to be Malik Nabers. Just elevate your game and let the rest of the crew come along. I'm concerned about the talent level and the depth at defensive tackle. Like, that's a concern. This is a question. Can those guys step up and fill those holes? I was bummed to see Jaylen Brown was leaving. I kind of get it. And I was bummed to see Brian Thomas leave, but I knew that was coming. Like, there was thoughts like, oh, maybe BT will come back. NIL stuff. No, that's top 40 pick money, top 20 pick money maybe. Go and play for the Raiders. Go and play for the Bears. Like, it's good. But LSU's got talent on offense. I'm not overly concerned about anything. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.